Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming. I think you all know us. I'm Nayaswamis Jyotish, and this is Nayaswamis Devi, and we live partly at the village and partly we travel all over trying to do our best to serve Master. With this crowd, I could spend, Devi and I are both going to talk, so I won't speak for too long. But with this crowd, I could spend half the time trying to do a sales pitch on why you need a guru. But if you've already bought that idea, I don't need to sell you on it. So I'm going to assume that everybody here understands that it's helpful to have a guide. So then what happens after that? What happens when we accept at least the need for having a guru, having a guide? Well, we heard Master's definition of the guru. The guru comes to free us from delusion, essentially. As Swami Kriyananda put it, the guru is not interested in coming and helping us fix up the mud puddle that we're in. He wants to get us out of that mud puddle. So if you think the guru is really focused on helping you get a parking place, or helping you get rich, or helping you get whatever your desires are, that might be partly true, but it would be true only because he's working with you in a longer rhythm. And he knows that unless he works with you at that stage, that you're not going to be able to progress onward. What he's really interested in, and what all of us as devotees are interested in, is your moksha, or your freedom. Your moksha means literally, mok is delusion and sha means to cut it. So the guru comes to cut through our delusion, whatever's holding us back from the realization of our spiritual freedom, of our unity with God. And so the guru comes and he helps guide us, but not just in a general sense. A teacher will come and guide in a general sense. The guru is deeper than that. The guru knows every thought that you think. He knows you better than you know yourself. And because he's already been through one might say the evolution of consciousness that leads to freedom, not only does he know the pathway to freedom, therefore can guide you, but he knows your needs better than you know your own needs. So a lot of the time, what we're praying for is not something that's going to free us. It's something that's going to keep us bound. That's why it says in the Bhagavad Gita that what is day to the worldly man is night to the yogi, and what is night to the yogi is day to the worldly man. Meaning the desires of the worldly man are not the desires of someone seeking moksha. And the desires of seeking moksha are not the desires of someone who wants their fulfillment still to come from the world, from things, from those things that lie outside of themselves. But the guru comes, and the more we accept his guidance and understand that everything that he gives us is an act of love and is meant for our freedom, then the more we open ourselves. That's why we have in the purification ceremony, the devotee comes and he asks for help. I seek purification by the grace of God. The minister replies, the master says, open your heart to me, and I will enter and take charge of your life. Until we open ourselves to that, we have free will. And we can say, I don't want your help. I've got this covered. I know how to get out of delusion. well, I'm not even wanting to get out of delusion. Actually, I could use your help with the lottery ticket. There was a great saint of our time, Padre Pio in Italy, and many, many miracles associated with him. He had a wonderful sense of humor. One time a politician came with, a big motorcade, and the policemen on the motorcycles leading him, and policemen and politicians behind him, and came to get Padre Pio's blessings. All he wanted was a photo op, because Padre Pio was so highly regarded. And he came to get Padre Pio's blessings, and Padre Pio said, "Get out of here. In my day, the policemen used to chase the crooks, not lead them." So anyway, people would come and they'd hold up envelopes, prayers for healing, and Padre Pio would come and he would bless them and touch them, and many, many, many miracles. And one man was holding up an envelope, and Padre Pio just went like that and looked at him like, "You idiot." And it turns out that he was holding up his lottery ticket, wanting Padre Pio to bless it so he could. At any rate, the Guru comes to give us exactly what we need, not our desires, because our desires arise out of our delusion. And he comes to not give us our desires, but to cut them. But he does that because he knows from the inside out exactly what we need, and he will give us what we need. I'll tell you two stories that help illustrate this, both concerning Krishna and Arjuna. So Krishna and Arjuna are walking along one day, and they see this beggar sitting beside the road. And he seems to be a fine fellow, not a low-lifer. And so Arjuna's heart opens up, and he wants to help this man. And so he gives him, he's got his purse with him, he gives him his purse, and it's got, the coins, the money in it. And the beggar thanks him very much. And Krishna and Arjuna pass on. But there's a crook, a robber, that's been observing this. And he sees that this man has now this purse full of money, and he comes and he robs him of the purse full of money. And so the next day, Krishna and Arjuna are walking along, they see the man still begging. And they're surprised. Arjuna said, "Well, I gave you the money yesterday. What happened?" The man explains, and Arjuna again feels that, I feel compassion for this. So this time he takes off a ring with a beautiful emerald, and large emerald, and gives it to him. And the beggar thanks him very much. And now he's going home to his wife and children. And now he has some money or something of value to support, and he has to cross a river. And so he's in a boat, and he wants to share his good fortune with everyone in the boat. And he says, look what I have. And the boat rocks, and the ring falls out of his hand and sinks down, and a big fish comes up and grabs it. Well, the next day, what happens? Arjuna and Krishna are walking along. Here's the beggar again, begging. And Arjuna says to Krishna, "Krishna, I don't understand what this drama is. Why does this ill fortune keep happening to him?" And Krishna said, "Let me show you." And so this time, it's Krishna who gives the beggar something, but he gives him 2 pice. That's the smallest possible coin in India, worth hardly anything. It'd be like giving a beggar a penny or 2 pennies. And so then Krishna says, "No, Arjuna says, "Well, what's that going to do for him?" He says, just observe. And so the beggar goes back, goes to the river. He's going to go home. With 2 pice, what can he do? And he sees, well, at least there's a fisherman there. I'll buy a fish, but I'm going to just free it. And so he buys the fish with the intention of freeing it, and he looks, and the fish has the ring. And so he takes the ring, and he stands up in the crowd. He says, look what I've found. The crook is in the crowd and thinks that he's found him. And he says, oh, please, here, take your purse back. And so the beggar recovers both the purse and the ring and goes home. So I'm going to tell you another story now about Krishna and Arjuna, and then I'll talk about the difference. So here, Krishna and Arjuna are walking along, and they come to the house of a rich man. It's a hot day, and they ask for some water and some food. And the rich man says, get out of here. I mean, he doesn't know they're Krishna and Arjuna, but says, get out of here. Why come begging from me? You scoundrels, I'm not going to give you anything. And then they go to the house of a very poor man. All he has, his only possession, is a cow. And they ask if they have anything. The poor man says, oh, yes, I have a cow. I just milked it. Here, take all of the milk. And so he gives essentially all that he has to Krishna and Arjuna. Subsequently, the next day or the next week, the rich man receives a huge amount of money. And the poor man, with his only possession being a cow, the cow dies. And Arjuna says, Krishna, I don't understand. I just, what is happening here? And Krishna says, the rich man is attached to riches. So I have given him more so that he'll learn more quickly that riches will not fulfill him. The poor man is very close to freedom. His last attachment was the cow. So I've taken that away so that now he can be free. So in the first case, the Guru is working with a man at a certain level of development because he knows exactly what is needed. And that man at the lower level of development, what he needs as his lesson, he's been given essentially wealth or material goods by Krishna through convoluted circumstances, yes, but nonetheless that's what he's received. But he's received that in a spiritual way because that is what's going to allow him to progress spiritually, to have the means, support his family, to begin, but especially it comes because he began not to think of himself, but began to think of something else, in this case, the freedom of the fish. So it was the act of serving others selflessly that brought that to him. So Krishna gave that to him. The rich man essentially was at that same level. So Krishna gave him riches so that he could learn that that's not where fulfillment lies. But the poor man was very close to moksha, the cutting of delusion. And so for him, Krishna cut that last attachment. Now for you and me, the Guru is working. We had a reading in India similar to the Guru reading, and it said that you have given your life to your Guru, and he is watching over you moment by moment and second by second. Now many of us in this room have given our lives. The Guru is watching over us moment by moment and second by second. So for our part, what we should take as the best attitude is that view everything that comes to you, everything. Loss of possession, loss of health, winning the lottery, anything that comes. See it as the act of God coming to help you become free. But don't be attached to the outer things. Be attached to the love of the Guru and give your love to the openness and the flow of the Guru, because he knows what you need far better than you know what you need. So gratitude to the Guru, service to the Guru, self-offering to the Guru. That's what will free us and get us out of the mud puddle. That's what will cut the delusion that we currently have.
So I'll just share a few words as well. I'd like to focus, first of all, good morning everyone. Nice to see you all. And a lot of us were there yesterday at the Yoga Fest, and these are such wonderful things to happen in a community to bring people together in a higher consciousness. I'd like to focus on just the passage from the Bhagavad Gita that was in the reading that Kathy shared this morning, where Krishna is saying to Arjuna, when you find a wise man, truly wise, not just in the mind, but with divine wisdom, then he tells him to do three things. One, ask questions of him mentally and verbally. Two, serve him faithfully. And three, with devotion. So let's just focus on those three simple points. The first, how do we ask questions of the Guru mentally and verbally? You know, the way over the years we've seen Swami Kriyananda give a great many talks and discourses and questions and answers. And very often people ask questions, and it's usually newcomers, and then they're not really questions, they're more, look how much I know. And you're like, what's the difference between this high state of samadhi and that high state of samadhi? Well, that person is nowhere near those states of samadhi, but they just want to show off that they know those terms. We have a very dear friend who's part of the Seattle community. He's an Indian man named Murali, and he's one of their main yoga teachers and has studied, he's getting a doctorate in the science of yoga from Bangalore University, very learned, but he was leading a session of yoga postures, and he said, and I will say the names in Sanskrit because, well, I can. And, you know, it was just so sweet and humble to put it that way. But to really ask questions of the Guru, it's not of the mind. A friend of mine who's an Ananda teacher was telling us recently that someone came to talk with them and asked them questions for several hours. But it was just, it's almost like, again, just to say, look how much I know. But what does it really mean to ask questions of the Guru? It isn't fine points of philosophy. It's the soul, the little child within each one of us, from the purity of our hearts, to say, I want to know. And that's what the Guru hears. He does. There was a story Swami told. Swami Kriyananda spent a great deal of time with Anandamoy Ma, the great woman saint in India. And he said once this very accomplished Hatha yogi came and was displaying for her all of his prowess and how accomplished he was. And she said, Ma, just totally looked the other way. Just didn't even look at him. And then a little simple devotee came, a true, who was inwardly asking for her blessings. She poured out her energy to him. So I've learned this in my own life, how to ask questions of the Guru, because at first we do it mentally. We do it like we would ask a question of someone that we want their advice. And you know, it's very interesting. all of us who serve as Ananda ministers, we do a lot of counseling. And it's very interesting. You learn a lot about human nature when you counsel people. Because when people come, our friend Nayaswamis Jyotish said, he finally says to people, are you coming for advice or support? And that's usually people say, well, this is really what I want to do. What do you think about that? And you say, if that's what you want to do, you do that. But they're not really asking. Their hearts aren't really open. And I asked Jyotish once, and he gave me a good answer. I said, what's the difference when people come and you can feel their hearts aren't really asking, but they're just telling you? He said, if the karma is already fixed and they don't have a choice in the matter, then they come and tell you what they're going to do. But if there truly is openness of heart, where the karma could really be changed, then they ask for advice. So when we come, as Jyotish gave that great quote yesterday at the talk, most people want to serve God, but mainly in an advisory capacity. And mainly that's how people ask questions of God. Oh, please let this happen. This is the right thing, isn't it? Isn't it? And they're not really asking, do you want me to do this? Do you want me to give this up? Do you want me to change my attitude? But it's the little silent whispers that you come to identify in your own heart that God listens to. I remember once in my early days of Ananda, I was in a group of people with Swami Kriyananda, and I hadn't seen him very much. I was new on the path, and I was so grateful to have a little time with him. It was with a small group, but there were several other people in the group, and they were, oh, Swami, what about this, and what about this? And they were just drawing all of his energy. And I just wanted, I didn't even have a question, but I just wanted a little inward connection with him. But these people were kind of sucking all the oxygen out of the room. And so I was just sort of sitting there, and I didn't want to intrude. But it was such a beautiful moment because I just sighed. I just went. Swami turned. He said, everyone else leave the room. Devi, would you give me a foot rub? It was that little sigh of longing that I just wanted a little bit of darshan from him. And he heard that. And that was a very important moment in my life because I began to understand what God listens to, what questions. It isn't the big flags and look how important I am, but it's the little whispers of the heart. So we don't have a guru in a body anymore, but that doesn't matter. He hears the little sighs of the heart. I'm lonely. I'm frightened. I'm confused. I don't know what my next step is. And God hears those questions if they're sincerely, quietly asked in the heart. And that's the language we need to learn how to speak if we want the Guru to answer our questions. And then to serve the Guru, but not just serve, but faithfully. What does that mean? How do we serve the Guru? In the Gita it says, even a leaf or flower, when offered with devotion, I personally come and receive. So again, it doesn't have to be the big things. It's the little simple things, the little act of love, the little act of selflessness, the little act of going out of your way to comfort somebody else that you think, well, maybe no one else sees. But in the Bible, Christ said, I was hungry and you gave me to eat, and I was thirsty and you gave me to drink, he says to the disciples. And I was homeless and you brought me in. And they say, Master, when did we do these things? And he says, to the extent that you do this to the least of these little ones, you do it to me. So to serve the Guru is to look for his presence everywhere in the world, in a little bird, in a little fish, in a little flower, in a human being that no one has comforted. There was a beautiful story, we heard a talk by Mother Teresa of Calcutta, where she said she was walking in London. She was giving some talks there, probably raising money for her charity. And she was walking through a park, and it was a cold day, and there was an old man sitting on a bench, kind of huddled over all alone. She just went over and sat down and took his hand, and his face just lighted up. And he said, "It's been so long since I have felt the warmth of a human hand." I mean, it seems such a little thing to us, but that's how we serve the Guru. And faithfully, not just one day, not just part of the day, but to the extent we can, all the time. So if whatever work we happen to be doing, if we're washing dishes or cooking food or cleaning the yard or tending horses, if we can do this with the thought, I'm serving God, I'm serving my Guru, that means to serve him loyally and faithfully. And then finally, with devotion. That's the most important part of all, because it's devotion that draws the grace of the Guru more than anything else. You know, Master's great advanced disciple, Rajarsi Janakananda, he achieved the highest states of liberation. He was a self-made multimillionaire, but before Master, he was a little child. And Master would bless him and say, "Don't forget where your power comes from, Rajarsi." And he said, "I won't, Master, it comes from you." So let's work on opening your heart. I was talking with a friend quite recently who represents Ananda, and she just said, "I'm not very good at reading people or knowing what they need, but I give them love." And when we give love to another person, again, we're being channels for the love of the Guru. And that's the most important thing. Yesterday at the fest, we started by asking the question, what is the purpose of your life? Everyone has to answer that. But for all of us, ultimately, the purpose of life is to learn how to love unconditionally, completely, wholeheartedly. And when we can start by trusting and giving that love to the Guru, then it expands and we see the Guru's face behind every pair of eyes, behind every beautiful flower. It's always the Guru that's been loving us, guiding us, blessing us through thick and thin. So what a blessing that we can even speak of the Guru-disciple relationship in this land of materialism and selfishness and greed. The Guru-disciple relationship is the flower of all human relationships, the culmination of everything we've been seeking. And to even speak of it brings blessings not only to our lives, but to all those around us. So, Jai Guru.